When your awakening ends, Jung called this phase the most dangerous. If your awakening felt like it ended, and now strange, unexplainable things have started happening to you, what I am about to describe is going to sound like the first time anyone has actually understood what is going on inside you. The synchronicities that used to dazzle you have stopped arriving with the same brightness. The peak experiences have quieted down. The teachers and the books that used to thrill you feel almost too small for what you have already lived through. And in their place, something else has moved in, something stranger, something you cannot explain to anyone because the people who knew you before will not understand it. And most of the spiritual teachers you will find online will only mislabel it. Carl Jung spent his life cataloging what happens to the human psyche after the Great Opening, and he gave this stage a name that almost no modern teacher dares to repeat. He called it the most dangerous phase of the entire process. Not dangerous in the way you might expect. Dangerous because almost everyone who reaches it abandons their inner work here, convinced that something has gone wrong with them, when, in fact, something has finally gone right. They retreat back into the smaller life they came from, and they spend the rest of their years suspecting that the awakening they had was a hallucination they should never have trusted. By the end of the next few minutes, you are going to understand exactly what is happening to you, why this strangeness is the proof and not the malfunction, and what Jung saw forming on the other side of it that almost no one is prepared for. The awakening you celebrated, the one with the lights and the visions and the breakthroughs, was not the destination. That was the signal that something far stranger and far more important was about to begin, and right now it has already started. Most people stop their inner work at the peak experience. They collect their certificates of insight, frame the mountaintop moment, and try to live off the photograph for the rest of their lives. But Jung understood that the peak is only the gate. What happens on the other side of the gate is where the actual transformation occurs, and almost nobody is prepared for it. After the awakening ends, strange things begin. Foods you have eaten for 30 years suddenly taste like memory. Conversations you used to enjoy become unbearable for reasons you cannot articulate. Time stops behaving the way it used to. Tears come without warning, in places where there is no logical reason for them. You walk through the same world you walked through last year, and it is no longer the same world. This is the part of the path nobody warns you about, the part the social media gurus skip past because they cannot package it, the part the books rarely describe because words break down inside it, and it is the part Jung spent decades trying to map. What I am about to describe, you may have never heard anyone say out loud. So if any of these symptoms have already started in your life, do not be afraid of them. Listen carefully, because these are not signs that something is breaking inside you. They are signs that something inside you has finally come back online. The first thing that changes is the most ordinary thing in your life. You eat a meal you have eaten 1,000 times, and somewhere in the second or third bite, you notice that you are tasting something underneath the food. Not the spice, not the salt, the history, the hands that prepared it, the mood it was cooked in. The part of you that always tasted these things has quieted, and now you can hear them. You will catch yourself eating slower. You will catch yourself sitting with food the way someone sits with a friend they are about to lose. The simplest meal will pull memories out of you that you did not know your body was carrying. Sometimes it will make you weep without warning, and you will not be able to explain to the person across the table why your eyes have suddenly filled at the sight of bread. Do not try to explain it. There are no words yet for what you are perceiving. The vocabulary will come later. The second one is stranger. You walk into a room full of people you have known for years, and within seconds, you can read the entire emotional architecture of the room. Who is unhappy? Who is performing? Who is grieving silently? Who is lying to themselves? You used to need hours to understand what was happening in a group of people. Now you understand it before anyone has finished speaking. And the weight of that knowing is more than you bargained for. You will start to leave gatherings earlier. You will stop attending events you used to enjoy, not because you have become cold, but because you can no longer pretend you do not see what you see, and you have not yet learned what to do with the seeing. This sense was always inside you. The awakening simply turned its volume up to a level your old life is not built to accommodate. The third one will surprise you. Music starts to do strange things inside you. Songs you have heard your entire life suddenly contain dimensions you never noticed. A piece of music you have loved since you were 16 will, one ordinary afternoon, break you open in a parking lot. You will pull over on the side of the road because a melody has just shown you something it never showed you before. The lyrics have not changed. The instruments are the same. You are the one who has changed. Your inner ears have widened. The music you thought you had finished hearing is the music your soul was waiting your entire life to receive properly. The fourth thing changes the night itself. Sleep begins to behave in ways you cannot predict. The dreams become more vivid, more symbolic, more impossible to ignore. Sometimes you wake up with answers to questions you did not know you were asking. Sometimes you wake up with a sentence in your mouth, half-spoken, that turns out to be the exact thing you needed to remember today. And sometimes you wake at 3 in the morning for no reason, completely awake, completely calm, and lie there for an hour as if you are being told something you cannot quite hear. This is not insomnia. Insomnia is a body fighting itself. This is something quieter. This is your psyche depositing material from the deeper layers on a timetable your conscious mind does not yet understand. Stop fighting these awakenings. Stop reaching for your phone. Lie in the silence and let it speak. Now here is the part that frightens people the most when they finally admit it out loud. You have begun to lose your appetite for the small lies that used to lubricate your social life, the harmless flattery, the polite agreement, the I am fine when you are not fine, the soft little untruths everyone uses to get through the day. You can no longer make them come out of your mouth without feeling something inside you flinch. So you stop, and the people around you, who have known you as a fluent speaker of these small lies for years, begin to notice that something has shifted, even if they cannot name it. They will accuse you of becoming cold, distant, less yourself. They are wrong. They are describing the absence of the version of you that used to perform a role they were comfortable with. You have not become colder. You have become unwilling to lie. And in a world that runs on small lies, that unwillingness will look like cruelty to people who depended on the old you to keep them comfortable. And here is where every modern spiritual teacher gets this stage completely wrong. They will hand you labels that sound impressive but obscure the actual mechanism. Dark Night of the Soul, Kundalini Awakening, Vibrational Upgrade. Jung saw something simpler and more difficult than any of these labels could ever describe. He saw what was actually happening underneath them. What you are experiencing is what Jung called individuation in motion. The slow, strange, irreversible process by which the conscious self and the unconscious self begin integrating into a single living whole. Before the opening, your psyche was largely unconscious of itself. The ego ran the show. The shadow stayed in the basement. The deeper layers of the self were like a country you had never visited, even though you lived inside it. The opening was the moment the doors between these layers began to dissolve. And once those doors dissolve, they do not put themselves back up. There is no version of this process where you get to keep the high and skip the rest. The unconscious has been waiting your entire life for permission to come into the light, and now that permission has been given, it does not stop arriving. Every dream you cannot quite remember in the morning is the unconscious depositing material into your conscious life. Every sudden tear in the parking lot is unprocessed grief or joy that has finally been allowed to surface. Every conversation that becomes unbearable is your psyche refusing to participate any longer in dynamics that used to be invisible to you. Every moment of strange certainty is a piece of your inner knowing returning to its rightful place. This is why Jung called it the most dangerous phase. Not because anything is going wrong, because almost everyone who reaches this point misreads the strangeness as malfunction and tries to force themselves back into the smaller life they came from. They retreat, they reach for the old comforts, they let the old friends pull them back into the old conversations. And in doing so, they end up trapped between two lives, fully present in neither for years, sometimes for the rest of their lives. The danger is not the strangeness. The danger is the panic about the strangeness. The panic that whispers to you that you should have stayed asleep, that you have broken something inside yourself, that the awakening was a mistake. Jung saw that the recalibration set in motion by the opening had to express itself somewhere. If it did not come out through dreams, it would come out through the body. If it did not come out through the body, it would come out through your relationships. If it did not come out through your relationships, it would come out through your perception of reality itself. There is no escape from this discharge, and there is no shortcut through it. The strange period is the discharge. The strangeness is not a malfunction. It is the system finally working the way it was always meant to work. And the only choice you have inside it is whether to fight it or let it pass through. Fighting it does not stop it. It only makes the discharge slower, more painful, and more disruptive when it finally comes through. Letting it pass through, without judging it, without naming it too quickly, without forcing it into a story your old self can understand, is the practice Jung pointed toward. Not because it is comfortable, because it is the only thing that works. If this is where you are right now, if any of these symptoms have already started in your life, hit subscribe and keep walking this path with me, and drop a single comment that says, "It's begun." That is all. No story, no explanation, just those two words. Because what comes next was not written for everyone. It was written for the people who are already standing on the other side of their first opening and feeling the floor tremble. Here is what Jung wanted his patients to understand most of all, and what almost no modern teacher will tell you. The awakening was the door. The strange period is the corridor. What is forming on the other side of the corridor is the real awakening. The peak experience showed you what was possible. The strange period is showing you what has to be cleared. And what is forming now, beneath the disorientation and the strangeness and the weeping and the loneliness, is who you actually are, with the cleared space and the new perception finally working together for the first time in your life. What comes next is quieter than you expect. The dreams will still arrive, but they will stop breaking you open. They will start speaking to you in a language you can finally understand. The grief will still arrive, but it will not flatten you. It will pass through you and leave behind a deeper kind of ground beneath your feet. The conversations that used to be unbearable will simply stop being unbearable, not because the people in them have changed, but because you no longer feel the need to participate in the parts of them that conflict with who you are now. You will let the silences exist without panicking. You will let the people who cannot meet you in this new place go on living their lives in the old place, and you will bless them as you let them go. You will stop trying to translate yourself for them. The strange perceptions remain. You will still read rooms instantly, still hear what is underneath voices, still taste the histories of meals, still wake up at 3 in the morning with answers, still feel storms before they arrive. But these will no longer feel like symptoms of something going wrong. They will feel like senses that were always meant to be part of you and were turned off for most of your life because the ego could not handle them. Now the ego is no longer in charge of who gets to perceive what. The whole self is in charge, and the whole self is curious, calm, and unafraid. So if you are in the strange period right now, hear this clearly. Nothing has gone wrong with you. The opposite has gone right with you. You are not losing your mind. You are losing your old mind. The mind that was built for survival inside a smaller life is dissolving, so the mind built for the larger life can finally come online. This is not a malfunction. This is a delivery. You are not failing the path. The path is succeeding through you. The strange things that begin when the awakening ends are not the end of anything. They are the beginning of who you actually are. They are not the danger Jung warned about. The panic about them is, stay, walk through the corridor. The other side is waiting for you, and it is more real than anything you have ever known.